How to handle stress overload. There are times in life when we've got way too much going on and we have to find our way through it. Here are some tips to manage stress and not let it take over your life. Hey guys, it's Anita Wingley. Welcome back if you've been here before. And if you're new to my channel, these are the creative studio sessions where I share thoughts and insights for living a brave, meaningful, and creative life. So the past few months of my life, I have experienced more stress than I even knew I could handle. And then especially in the last few weeks, because I started a master's program on top of working my jobs and creating content for my channels, videos like this. And I just hit a point where my brain went poof. And I was like, okay, this is way too much. Anita, you're gonna have to slow down and learn what to do with all of this stuff that you've going on in your life. So I've been on a journey of understanding myself better, understanding what causes me stress, and how to mitigate it or just navigate it, because we can't avoid stress, especially if you live in a city. Sometimes I feel like getting in my car onto the streets in rush hour traffic, that is already stress, and I forget everything else that's already going on in the day. So there's parts of life where stress is just unavoidable, but when we become self-aware and we understand how stress affects us and how to give ourselves, a body, and our nervous system a chance to reset after a very stressful time, these are things that help us to just thrive in life. So the tips that I'm going to share with you today come from personal experience and my own research and learning. I am not a medical professional or an expert on this in any way, but I am someone who's committed to thriving in life, to being creatively productive, and to making things that help me and hopefully help you. So what exactly is stress? Stress is our body's reaction to harmful situations. When we are faced with something that could put ourselves in danger, our body goes into fight or flight mode. So it pumps in all this oxygen into our blood and it gets our body ready as if we're about to fight something like a bear that we have to protect ourselves. However, in our day-to-day lives, it's usually not a bear that's about to attack us, but it's other things. It might be bosses, it might be family, relationships, and it could also be physical things if you get into a car accident. And these all affect our actual body. As I was doing research for this video, I discovered that it actually shifts our brain chemistry as well. And our brains can adapt, or not quite adapt, but they can get used to having too much stress. And in the long term, it really negatively affects us. It can make us more susceptible to depression, anxiety, and then there's obviously health conditions like heart attacks and high blood pressure. Basically, our bodies are not designed to be operating at the level of stress that many of us do in the modern world. Things like having constant deadlines at work, or for me, it has to do with juggling too many different things. I've got deadlines for school, I've got deadlines for work, and then I've got deadlines I've put on myself to create content like this. And then there's also the things that we want in our heart. So what was actually causing me a lot of stress was the fact that I get so much life and joy out of making content for my channels. And because I had so much work to do, the time that I got to spend doing what I loved was getting squeezed smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I thought I would be okay with that. I told myself, like, it's okay. Eventually you'll get to create that stuff again. But school started in September and I didn't really want to slow down or reduce the amount of time I spent on my passion, but I had to spend more time on school. So basically, all of these things started to snowball, and there was a big project at work, and I didn't really have time I could take to rest after it. So I felt like my brain was like an elastic band that just kept getting pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled. So that even though like the rest of my physical health was pretty good, I could feel like so antsy inside, and it was just I was not a nice person to be around. So part of the reason I became a little bit obsessed with learning how to manage myself, my energy, and my stress is the fact that I want to be someone in this world who accomplishes a lot. And if you're watching this, I know that you do too. You are ambitious, driven, and visionary. You have ideas in your soul that you want to bring out into the world, and you don't really want to slow down. Neither do I. So here's the thing though, we have to learn how to deal with stress because it's just going to be a part of the creative process. The good thing though is that as we learn about ourselves and what causes us stress, we're able to step it up a notch. At least this was my theory, and so far it has proven itself because instead of being broken by stress, I feel like a racehorse that's like interval training. Sometimes I'll run really fast, but I know that I can't keep running that fast all the time. I have to slow down, recoup, but then the next time I'm able to sprint just a little bit faster. So now let's talk about 8 tips for managing stress. These are things that I've learned about and personally integrated into my life in order to be able to do more but still stay sane and happy. Tip number 1 is to see all of this as a training ground. Don't let the stress take you down and bring down your spirits. It's really important to have a positive attitude about this. I know when I'm in the thick of stress, I don't feel like having a positive attitude. But that's when I just take a breather and I'm like, okay, this is a challenge, and challenges make us stronger. I like to think of what it means to be an Olympic athlete. When athletes are faced with a struggle, they don't just quit. They look at the problem and how can they be faster, stronger, right? Or they cross-train. They don't look at the 101 push-up as like, I'm weak, I can't do this. No, they think of, okay, how can I do 102 push-ups, 103 push-ups? So, and then your muscles get stronger. So for me, as I've learned how to adapt with stress and the amount of work that I have, I've just been trying to approach it like, okay, here's a problem, an objective problem, and regardless of how I feel about it, there is a way through it. Part of the reason I've been able to maintain this positive attitude is because I also check in to see if there's something like, am I supposed to quit my job? Am I supposed to quit this master's program? Am I supposed to quit creating content for my channels? And when I tuned into my gut, I just knew like, no, I'm not supposed to quit. So I'm supposed to find a way through. And that is exactly what I'm doing. Step number 2 is to nurture my introvert. I actually found this book called The Introvert Advantage at a Goodwill bookstore. If you've never read about your introvert side and you identify more as an introvert than an extrovert, I highly recommend you pick up some books and learn about what it means to be an introvert. I thought I knew what it means, but this book just opened up so much more. And it doesn't have to be this book, honestly. I think if you just spend some time understanding what it means to be an introvert. So for example, one of the things that I realized that what makes an introvert is that when there's a lot of things going on, instead of increasing your energy, your natural impulse is to throttle down. Instead of throttling up like a car revving up, we want to slow down. And that is exactly what I kept wanting to do. So the more I learn about this side of myself, the more I understand what I need to actually stay calm. And things like taking breaks, right? Like taking breaks more often, I learned to do because I also learned that as an introvert, I cannot keep going and going all the time. So if you identify as an introvert, I highly encourage you to keep learning about what it means to be an introvert and how to take care of yourself as one. Especially in the season where I'm a lot more stressed, it's just clear to me that like, okay, my introvert is in distress and I need to take care of her. Tip number 3 is to take time off work. So I happened to have a couple of vacation days that I could still take in this season where my mind was blowing up. And so I made a conscious decision. I'm like, I cannot keep trying to run at 100 kilometers an hour. I need to like slow down a little bit before I rev back up. So I decided to actually use those days during the autumn instead of waiting till winter and trying to like take a big vacation in the winter. In our culture, especially in work culture, people hold their vacation days so preciously, and I understand that. But the thing with vacation days is that it's not just for vacation, like a big trip. It's also for you to take care of yourself. And I really encourage you to take care of yourself. And if it means taking days off work, like for me, it's more important to be a centered, whole person. And if that means taking a day off, it's worth it. And, you know, instead of trying to like go on fancy trips all the time with my vacation days, like I would just rather take time off, recalibrate myself. To me, that is more worth it than being uncalibrated the rest of the time just so that I can have a few more days of a longer trip. So if you have the option to take vacation days, or you've got personal wellness days, or even if you've been stressed for a really long time, what if you even considered taking a leave of absence from work? I know that this is not common, but I genuinely think that if your company has a policy for people to take a leave of absence, like once in a while, it doesn't hurt to take one, because it's really important to take care of yourself. And if you've been working in your job for a while, chances are your company appreciates you and they don't want you to just quit. They would rather you take a leave of absence and then come back refreshed. Tip number 4 is to stay home. This could be asking to work remotely so that you don't have to leave your house, or it could mean purposely giving yourself some days on the weekend to stay home. I could feel that I really needed this, especially after crisscrossing the city to do all these things and get to different places. So I've given myself a couple of Saturdays where I'm like, I'm not doing anything other than just staying home. And literally what it looks like is me in my pajamas for half the day and in sweats for the other half of the day. And I'm just doing homey things. I'm like tidying my room, cleaning the bathroom, vacuuming, reading, watching grass grow. These are days where I really do nothing, and it might seem like a waste of time, but I know that this stillness is really important. It's like a vehicle that has been going so fast for so long. If you want to slow it down, you can't just like hit the brakes. What happens to the passenger if you do that? The person basically has a heart attack inside because they're just like jolted shut. Our systems need time to slow down. I don't have scientific proof of this, but like intuitively I can just feel it. Our systems need time to slow down. So you've got to give yourself a couple days to like wind down. And when you notice that you're going too fast, don't schedule more things. Like cancel things and let yourself slow down and spend evenings at home or days at home. Again, I know that you might work in a job where it seems like this is not possible, but like use your day off to stay home and don't see friends if that's what it takes. It's really important to take care of yourself, especially if you are in a place where you actually are in stress overload. Having too much stress for too long is extremely bad for our health, so consider this an important part of your health. Tip number 5 is to spend time with your journal or with God and get clear on your priorities in life in this season. As I mentioned earlier, I took time to figure out, am I supposed to quit anything? Like, I'm stressed right now, I cannot handle all of this, what do I do? So I spent time with my journal and with God, and I just like wrote and felt into my heart and just like really tuned into my intuition and really asked myself, like, what am I doing here? Why am I so stressed? Like, what is the lesson here? How do I navigate this? So this time of personal reflection is really important to me and really valuable to me. And it helps me get through so much crap in life. And if you don't have a habit of taking time for personal reflection, I highly recommend it, especially if you're extremely stressed right now. I find that stress is like a reaction. Other than the physiological stuff, it's also like a part of my soul is like, Anita, you're not really living, you're just going through the motions. And when we do that too much, like our souls revolt. And so for me, taking time with my journal, of course, this is perfect to do on a day off or when you're having one of your stay-at-home days, puttering around. This is when I bring out my journals and my colored pens and I draw pictures, and it's really like having a conversation with myself and with God. And even if you don't believe in God, think of it as like this higher source of wisdom that resides in every one of us and all around us that we can tap into. And when I spend time digesting my life and the lessons, I always feel so much clearer and so much less stressed. Tip number 6 is to eat extremely well. When I could feel that like my brain and my system was starting to go in overload, I knew that I needed to eat clean. I knew it wouldn't fix the whole problem since the problem was not just from food, but food would help it. So for example, root vegetables are supposed to be very grounding because they literally grow under the ground. So it's kind of like you're eating the earth a little bit more. And when you feel grounded, you feel calm, centered. It's like little things don't knock you out. You can hold your calm through the storm. So I actually went out to the grocery store and I didn't bring with me a grocery list. I just walked around the fruits and veggies and like anything that's a whole foods, so nothing processed. And just ask your body, your intuition, like, what do I need to eat? And that's exactly what I did. And I went and I bought all these root vegetables and certain vegetables, and that's what I ate. And I also stopped eating fruit. Now, normally I eat a lot of fruit. This might not be an official thing, but personally, I noticed that I was like eating a lot of fruit and I kind of felt like the sugar intake was affecting me. So for the last few weeks when I've been extremely stressed, I've eaten less fruit and I've just eaten more vegetables and root vegetables and whole grains. And I'm not a nutritionist, so feel free to seek professional advice rather than taking my advice, but I'm just speaking from experience. I could feel that eating less fruit and more whole grains and vegetables, it felt like I was putting better fuel in my body. Even though my car, which is my whole system, still needed a checkup and a reset, at least I was putting better fuel in my body instead of putting harmful things. So things like sugar and caffeine, they might give us a sense of energy, but it's kind of a false energy because it's not real life force energy. It's conjured up from this substance that affects our brain and our body. Like caffeine makes our blood pump faster, which is part of the reason why we feel like we have more energy, but it's not the same thing as when you get energy from eating well and exercising. Which leads me to tip number 7, which is to create a regular exercise routine. In the midst of me getting sucked into this whirlwind of stress, I knew that, okay, I need to have a solid workout routine. So I actually decided to sign up for a yoga pass so that I could go twice a week, because for me, hot yoga is one of the things that does a really good job of detoxifying and decompressing my system. It might not be for everyone, but that's okay. Find what works for you and stick to a schedule. Even if it means investing in a different fitness pass or a different gym, for me, that is worth it. Like, what else is your money for if not to take care of you? If you eat well and you spend money eating well and like healthy food, then why not spend money taking care of your body and your physical fitness? Because it affects our energy levels a lot. So I would say not just exercise regularly, since we all know that, that's basic knowledge. Create a regular fitness routine that actually serves you and helps you release stress and be energized. For me, that includes swimming once a week, running once a week, and yoga twice a week. That's what it is for now, because I'm actually waiting to join a different gym that's opening, because eventually I'd like to include weights in that as well. But the point is, create a fitness routine that works for you so you don't have to think about it too much. And every week, it's like you know that you're going to get a good cleanse through your system. Tip number 8 is to consciously spend time in nature. Science has actually proven that plants emit a different kind of electromagnetic field than things like artificial lights or our phone screens. They also emit an electromagnetic field, but plants are something different. And I'm sure you can research this a lot more if you wanted, but I can just feel it. Like when I am in a place that has a lot of nature energy, whether it's a garden, even just a greenhouse, but the best is actually going out in real nature, it just feels completely different. It's like the whole energy is just like, boom. It's calm and it's peaceful. Doesn't feel like tingy and frazzled the way the city feels sometimes. So that's it. Those are my 8 tips for managing stress. I'm continuing to learn and grow as I learn how to deal with the stress that comes into my own life. But just know that no matter what it is that you're going through, if you can deal with the stress part of it, then the actual problem will become clear and it'll be a lot easier. So I know that if I'm stressed, then my schoolwork feels impossible. But if I'm not stressed, I can navigate it with wisdom and clarity and just feel a lot better about life. So let me know if you guys have more questions about this, or if you've got other stress tips that you've found helpful, please feel free to share in the comments for everyone as well. Thank you so much for watching and for being here and for sharing in this journey with me. I'll see you in the next video.